What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show live here on this Friday morning on the DSM Philadelphia YouTube channel. I'm one half of your host, Dylan Davis. To my left, my faithful co-host, Scotty. The Sixers need Joel Embiid on the floor. They head back to Boston tonight to face the Celtics for the third time this season. The matchup is tied 1-1. The Sixers get their next test tonight. The Eagles, Niners, 2 days away. We're going to be talking about that game. The Cowboys beat the Seahawks last night. Which game means more to you, this 49ers game this Sunday or Dallas next Sunday? We're going to break it all down for you guys. But first and foremost, if you are new to the channel, guys, if you like the content, if you want to be interactive, make sure to smash that subscribe button. It's the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host. My man, what is going on?
Good morning to you. Good morning to everybody out there that's viewing and tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. And happy Friday, guys. Had a great, Thursday night football game. I mean, great depending how you look at it. I mean,
a lot better than what we've witnessed throughout the season through 13 weeks.
Refs were heavily involved. I don't know if that's
sure.
only okay, if that's only not okay when the Eagles play, but
sure.
Nonetheless, had to watch the ref battle last night. But happy Friday, man. I'm happy to be here, talk some Sixers, and get prepped for this huge San Fran and Philly game that's going to mean the world to everyone.
Yeah, mean the world to us over here, and we'll get into the game, man. But let's start the Sixers real quick, because I figure that's going to take a lot less time than this Eagles 49ers conversation. So the Sixers obviously lose their last game to the Pelicans. They are now 0-2 on the season. When it comes to missing Joel Embiid. Obviously, Kelly Oubre Jr. has not returned yet from injury. Nico Batum re-injures that index finger, so he leaves this one a little early against New Orleans. But it's evident, man, and we knew this, obviously, what the Sixers team looks like with Joel Embiid on the floor versus off the floor. I mean, hell, over the years, we've had our struggles just simply in game with him off the floor for 8, 9, 10 minutes at a time. How are you going to win the Embiid minutes? How are you going to stay competitive in the Embiid minutes? Well, when you're missing him for 48 minutes a night, it makes life even that much more miserable. But when you watch the game against Minnesota, they score 99. They get beat by 15, 16, whatever. You watch this game in New Orleans the other night, and both are on the road against good, explosive Western Conference teams. I get it. It's not an easy ask at all, but it is evident. And it bolsters this dude's case for MVP, and it's why it frustrates me when people want to downplay the MVP last year and people want to downplay him being in the race with Jokic and everything like that. It's like, man, I'm not saying Jokic isn't the MVP. I'm not saying he's not top 2 in the conversation every year, whatever. But they just beat the Los Angeles Clippers without Nikola Jokic. The Sixers, I'm trying to think of a team they could beat without Joel Embiid on the floor. They could beat the Wizards without Joel Embiid on the floor. They might be able to beat the Spurs without Joel Embiid on the floor. We're getting close to that's it. Like they have a lot of issues when he's not out there. It starts on the defensive end. There's no rim protection. They got crushed on the glass. They turned the ball over 20 plus times against New Orleans the other night without him. And you could see in the first half, man, just how much he controls on the offensive end, whether he's touching the ball or not, the spacing. And we sit here and we want to talk about how you need the guys around him to make Embiid's life easier. You need the spacing, the shooting. You need the big fella in the post or on the floor, because the spacing in the first half against New Orleans was atrocious. They couldn't get anything going offensively. I think it's very clear that Joel Embiid is a top 3 MVP candidate simply because his team needs him more so than anybody else.
Yeah, no, I would have to agree with that, especially this year, man. I think it's really evident in the games that we've seen without Embiid so far. They get out of hand, and they get out of hand quickly. And the thing that I guess maybe takes me away from that thought a little bit is just the fact that Nick Nurse is starting Marcus Morris in his place. Like, that makes zero sense to me from a size standpoint. Like, you're going against the Pelicans, you're going against the Timberwolves, where these teams have big bodies. Like, you have Zion Williamson. Yes, he's like 6'7", 6'8", but
they also had Valanciunas.
He's going to rebound the basketball. Valanciunas was killing us in the first half, at least.
Talking about a 7-2.
And it's because there was absolutely no one to match up with him on the glass, in the post. So like even Mo Bamba didn't look great. Like Paul Reed's the obvious guy that you start. I don't understand
Yeah,
why
I
Marcus
thought
Morris
about
would
it
be
the first time he
there.
did it against Minnesota. The only explanation I can come up with for Nick,
You want to like kill him with
he,
small ball,
I was thinking he wants to keep Paul Reed in that role of backup
keep him
center.
comfortable. Yeah.
Like, so you
And
don't
I get
elevate him
that.
without Joel. But my question is the other night, why go to Mo Bamba before you went to Paul Reed?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't understand that either. I get
And
Mo Bamba gave you good minutes against the Lakers,
yeah,
but that doesn't mean he gets
and
to
a
come out
blowout.
and like have big minutes against,
Yeah.
before Paul
No,
Reed at least.
yeah. And Nick Nurse went very, very small in this game. At one point, Tobias and Rocco where you're 4
Yeah.
and 5 together.
Which
So,
I guess when you don't have Embiid, I guess it speaks to
yeah,
why Embiid is such a big
trying
piece
things
of
out.
Nick
But
Nurse can't
I've always
figure it
scratched
out
my
without
head,
him.
man. And I've said this to you before. And listen, I know you're missing Daniel House and you're missing Jaden Springer and you're missing Kelly Oubre Jr. and Batum gets hurt in the second half of this game or whatever. So you are missing multiple guys. It's not just Embiid, but
Yeah,
you
that's
were
fair.
missing Springer and House and Oubre in previous games, in the last 2 or 3 games before the Pelicans won, and the rotation wasn't deepened.
Yeah.
I'll never understand in the games where Joel Embiid, your center, is out,
Yeah.
how KJ Martin gets
Gets into
almost
the rotation.
double-digit playing time, it feels like.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
never understand the correlation of how these
That's the stuff
guards
that
and
doesn't make
wings
sense.
get in the game because Embiid's out.
Yeah,
I
that's the
don't
stuff
get
that
that
doesn't
part.
make sense. I will say, to your point though, as far as the Sixers needing Embiid, and I once again I agree. When it comes down to it, it's not just that, right? It's not just Marcus Morris in the starting lineup, but it's the defensive impact, right? Of
Absolutely.
having your anchor there to block and guard everything that comes through the lane. And just not having that there, I think the Pelicans
Yeah,
were able to operate with free mental space. I can do whatever I need to on the court right now,
absolutely.
get to the rim whenever I want. So it opens up other teams' offenses completely. And then, like you said, on the other end, the attention that Embiid gets, not only the attention, but I think it speaks to like Embiid's playmaking this year and how important
Yeah,
it is to the team. Because you don't have James Harden whenever Embiid is
absolutely.
out. You don't have a guy that's going to create along with Tyrese Maxey whenever Embiid is out of the lineup. So it kind of speaks to what certain situations where if this Sixers team had James Harden, maybe they would be better in that situation. And
Yeah,
that's just something my mind went back to when I was watching them play against the Pelicans. It was like they need another guy that can have the ball in their hands, right? And draw attention and play make for others. It can't just be Tyrese Maxey whenever you're down Embiid. And
yeah,
so along with that, I'll say this: like, obviously, you don't have Kelly Oubre. Maybe Kelly Oubre can be that guy whenever Embiid is out that can step up and give you 20 to 25
right,
alongside
right.
Max. What sucks about this, Dylan, what sucks about it, what we're kind of skating around here is Tobias Harris and him disappearing
Yeah,
when Embiid's not there. That is really what can't happen, although you're not going to win anything without Embiid, so you shouldn't like focus your
right.
mindset
You
around
can't
that.
hang your hat on it
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
Tobias Harris not showing up is kind of what we're insinuating towards here because Maxey, he didn't have a great shooting night against the Pelicans. Wasn't great all around. There's a lot of attention on him. But
Right.
he did have his normal point output, right? He was up there at the 28s and
33 he
30
had.
points.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think Tobias, there's something in that, but you get Kelly Oubre back soon, not tonight, but soon. And I think that's your ball handler that can kind of open up the offense, even when Tyrese Maxey's not there, and then also create for himself, man. You need another guy like that because guys like D-Melt, they're not able to create for themselves, right? Rocco's not able to create for himself. Nicholas Batum, he's a
Yeah.
glue guy. He's not a guy that's going to find his own shot. So it's really hard for this team whenever Embiid's off the floor for sure.
Absolutely. And I wanted to go back to your defensive point, and it has to do on the offensive end as well, but just keeping this team together. And it's kind of ironic because what's the one thing in Embiid's game that we probably get most frustrated by? his turnovers, right?
Yeah, his
It
turnovers.
right, like the
Yeah.
games where he has 6, 7 turnovers in a big moment, whatever the case may be. It's like you watch a game like against New Orleans, and you realize like how important this dude is in keeping this offense intact, slowing them down, like just keeping everyone together, getting everyone in the
Yeah.
right spot. And I mean, I know New Orleans turned the ball over just as much the other night, and I really don't know what that says about them, but it's inexcusable to turn the
Yeah.
ball over 21 times.
Yeah.
It really is.
And
So when you look at it from that point, it's like, man, he really does kind of like just, I don't know, calm everything
he
down, put
settles
guys in the right
everything, man.
spots.
It's not even it's not just that. It's not like just the calming effect. Like you have Embiid behind you, you
Yeah,
can play up on defense, right? Like I
absolutely.
don't have to make sure that I don't let this guy get to the rim. I can put some pressure on the ball because I know I got my big 7'2"
Yeah.
anchor behind me. And I think the biggest thing with Embiid as well, something that we just kind of haven't talked about this year, and because it's kind of expected, but what 11.3 rebounds per game so far this season for Joel Embiid. That's a big step, man. Like he's fifth in the league in rebounding, and that is just like something that I feel like consistency wise, I have begged Joel Embiid to just
You
hit
have.
the glass
You have.
and dominate on the defensive
Because
end,
it
and he's
frustrates
doing
you
that
when
this
you're
year.
7-foot center who's constantly in that area. It's not like he's consistently
Yeah,
pulled away from the rim against every
yeah,
opponent. He's in that area. Like when he has 7 rebounds one night, or eight,
yeah,
how
yeah.
do
It
you
doesn't make
only have 7?
sense.
So to your point, to
It's
be
an
top
energy
5
thing.
in rebounds this year, to lead the league in scoring right now again,
I think he's top 10
to
in assists. I
right,
think that that's
to have that
crazy.
elevation in playmaking and passing wise, to be a top 2 to 3 rim protector in this league, right? It's crazy, man.
How do you feel about this?
Yeah, it's you
Like,
have
does
to.
does
You have
this
to,
hurt?
right?
Yeah, like if Tobias is doing this, man, like he's already kind of reverting back. We've kind of glossed over it in a few games here, in just the last 2 weeks. I feel like where
Right.
he has had like 8 points, right, on bad shooting or just not really involved. And I think to that point, when you can bring in a guy like Zach LaVine at that point, all the
Right,
confusion about
and
do we let
Caruso's
Tobias
already a
go or
guy we're
not?
asking for in terms of
Yeah,
depth and another ball handler and another guard off the bench. Like that's an upgrade in itself. And then again, I think it gets to the point where let's just compare players, Levine or Tobias Harris. Who do you want?
yeah,
Tobias provides you different
yeah.
things. Tobias is bigger. Tobias is a better defender. Tobias is more of that glue guy. But Zach LaVine is a, an all-star, basically. Zach
Yeah,
LaVine's a guy
yeah.
that can average
He
25
is a
points
guy
per
that's
game.
made the All-Star team.
It's tough, man. It really is because it's tough to sit here. They're what? They're 12-6 on the year. Tobias has been really good this year. He's averaging what?
Yeah.
18, 19 points per game on efficient shooting still. Even the other night when we're mad at him, he shot 50% from the floor. He wasn't aggressive enough and
Yeah,
turned the
he's not
ball over.
jacking up shots per se.
So
That is the other side of it. Levine will jack up shots. Like he's
absolutely.
gonna get his shots. So I don't
The
know.
issue
It
the
is
issue is
interesting.
like, do you take a 3-game sample, 4-game sample and say, all right, I've had enough of I
Yeah,
want an upgrade from Tobias. Um, do you give it to obviously we have time, right, till February to figure this thing out, 2 months or
yeah.
so.
Yeah,
But
there's no
it's
rush.
an interesting
That's the
question.
good part. That's the good part. There's no rush because you do have Oubre coming back. That's another piece to the puzzle that you can
Yeah.
see how that fits in and what he looks like coming off the bench as a sixth man now, as another ball handler, another scorer. So you still got looks that you can look at here.
Yeah.
We still haven't had a full rotation of like having Oubre available, having Batum available, Rocco, Springer, right? Just having all of those guys available at the same time and
Absolutely.
ironing out a
And
real and sturdy rotation is
yep.
something that the Sixers just haven't done yet.
Right. We got that for what, the first 5, 6 games of the season. And even then, Jaden Springer wasn't part of this rotation, right? Marcus Morris wasn't part of this rotation. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you bring that up because let's get to tonight's matchup against the Celtics. And it's tough because I know Brett's been looking forward to this one. We have as well since we got on Joel Embiid for his 20-point night. And it's like, man, you get the update that Kelly Oubre was a full participant in practice 2 days ago.
Yeah.
All right, maybe he's eyeing a return. He's not playing tonight. All the tweets I saw from Shams and everybody else was next week is his return. Batum re-injures his finger in the last game. Does he play tonight? He's a game time decision. House is out. Springer is a game time decision as well. And Joel Embiid, I'm sure, is playing, but he's listed as a game time decision right now. So even with Embiid, you have no Oubre still, no House, and potentially no Springer and Batum in this one. And it hurts because we wanted this bounce back test, right? We wanted, all right, we got Boston the first one. They got us shorthanded in the second one. How do we look tonight with everybody back, maybe just besides Kelly? Well, now we might be down even more guys on the road. And it's like, if that's the case, if you're down Oubre, House, Springer, and Batum, there's no point in judging what the outcome of this game is. Now, Kristaps Porzingis is out for the Celtics, which is huge when you look at their depth and their lack of big men, but we'll see what Embiid looks like. But yeah, man, I need an health update from the Sixers.
Yeah, that's the big thing tonight, because the main thing for me, if Embiid doesn't play, then obviously the Sixers aren't going to really have a chance at this game, barring, something spectacular from the rest of these guys. Obviously, Batum, Springer, you'd love to see those guys in there with Embiid as well. Kristaps Porzingis out for the Celtics. That takes a little bit of the juice away as well from the game.
Yeah.
But still, once again, a measuring stick in a sense, because you do have a team in the Celtics that beat you without Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis. So they do have Jaylen Brown back tonight. But yeah, I mean, with Embiid, it's like, if he's a game time decision, if he's dealing with an illness, which Embiid are you going to get tonight?
Right.
And that's not me like judging him preemptively. I'm curious what type of
fatigue
he will be able to provide coming off an illness, if that was a serious illness. So this game is hard to measure, right? Like I see the Celtics 5.5 point spread. It really just depends on if Embiid is suiting up tonight. I think that's the biggest question mark of the night. Because even without Batum, like, while Oubre and Batum, it's a huge loss not having them. With Embiid, you still have a chance if he can play up to his MVP level. It's going to be a lot tougher, but you still have a chance nonetheless.
Absolutely. And you can argue which Boston team was better. You have the depth of last year's playoff team. You have this year with Porzingis and Jrue Holiday, obviously missing Porzingis tonight. And it's like, well, I watched them go into Boston in game one last year with no Embiid and none of this depth already, just because they didn't have it, and stole a game. So you do never know what you can get if Joel Embiid has a night or whatever. But this is the point I'm looking at here. Brett brings up, without Porzingis, if you don't have Batum and you're missing Oubre and you don't have Hal, like, you're missing all this shooting and spacing, we know it's gonna make Joel's life miserable, even though I still need a solid performance, right? Like, I just need limit the turnovers and just show your energy and whatever the case may be. But that's what I'm looking for. You talk about how do you measure this team? Or measure this game? It's not about the win or loss tonight. If you're missing those guys, if you're just missing Kelly Oubre Jr., no, that changes the outlook of this game. It still hurts, but it definitely changes the outlook. But if you're missing these guys, how do you measure this game? How do the big three play that we have? Now, Embiid's life is going to be the most difficult, obviously, but how does Tyrese Maxey shoot, and how aggressive is he tonight against the Celtics team he struggled with?
Yeah.
Is Tobias Harris aggressive, or is he cowering in a shadow? Is Embiid turning the ball over when he's double teamed those are the things I'm looking for tonight. It's not about the win. It's about those guys show up if they're shorthanded.
Yeah, for me, I'll say this. If Embiid does decide to play, it's all about composure for me. Just staying composed in the game. I get it. They're going to throw some really tough looks at him tonight.
Right.
As they will throughout the season and into the postseason. He's going to see this the rest of the way from teams of this caliber. So I'm just looking for him to stay composed, stay engaged in the game, right? I don't want to see these the moments that kill me against the Celtics are when Al Horford has like these spurts. Just don't let stuff like that happen. Like that, I'll be fine if stuff like that doesn't happen. If like Jason Tatum comes out and beats us tonight, then so be it. Like that's fine in Boston, whatever. I don't need to see Al Horford out here dominating Embiid and making him look foolish. So that would be my first request. The next thing that I'm actually really looking at in this game, though, Tobias Harris, man, at a certain point, you do have to take an initiative and have some dignity and some pride about yourself and come out here and help him beat out. He's sick. Like he's dealing with the illness, man. Let's not ask him to come out and give us a 40-point triple-double against the Boston side. It's probably not possible the way they guard him anyways. But Tobias Harris needs to come out with an initiative that he's going to score. You know how when he leaves those games of his hot shooting, he says, I'm a fucking shooter or whatever the hell he calls himself.
Tell a friend, bro.
We need that type of confidence. We need that crumble cookie confidence from the summertime, right? With Daryl Morey laughing it up. We need to see that on a consistent basis. But more importantly, as the competition ramps up tonight, let's see him come out and take an initiative. Yes, Maxey, come out, shoot, hit your shots. You got to open it up for Embiid as well. Embiid needs to come in, get in his spots, make the right plays. But Tobias, you come out and you give us 22 points tonight, 24 points tonight, there's a chance the Sixers might win this game. Like, that's a real thing. Like, if Tobias Harris can match a Jaylen Brown or just even a Derek White, man, like 18 to 19 points tonight, that gives the Sixers a chance against the Celtics. But if he's going to come out and, have one of these 8-point stinkers and just disappear throughout the game, that's not going to work for me, man.
It's all a mindset against this team. Against every other team, I see a mentally tough Sixers unit on the floor. Against Milwaukee, I see them look strong. They played LeBron James and Anthony Davis and took the fight to them. Against OKC, again, everybody else, this team matches up really well and they're mentally tough. There's moments against the Boston Celtics where Tobias Harris does not want the ball in his hands. There's moments where Tyrese Maxey does not want the ball in his hands. There's moments where Joel Embiid has a tough 4-play sprint and he's flailing his arms up in the air and frustrated with who's out there on the. It can't happen, man. Yeah. It cannot happen.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah, that's Brett's new name, Doc.
Yeah, I like that. And I like that, man. They're establishing some vibes there in the comments,
Doc
man.
I like it.
But no, you're spot on, man. I need to see something. And same thing with Tyrese Maxey, right? Like it's not just Tobias. I think it's just Tobias on a higher scale. But Maxey's got to start, he's just got to start showing a little more composure, a little better shot selection, I would say, a little bit more confidence in the shot selection. Yeah. He's got to pick it up too with Embiid off the floor or not in the game as well.
Yeah. Brett's daughter's middle school team runs a better offense than Doc Rivers' Sixers team.
And the sad truth, I believe Doc. I believe Doc Brett wholeheartedly. I do. I believe that his daughter runs.
The last thing I'll say to Doc before he goes and sees his patient again, if Embiid's a game time decision, he's ill, you could see he's fatigued. If we're missing all these role players, I'm not going to crush him. I promise you, no matter what it looks like, I'm not going to crush him.
Yeah.
My thing with Doc's comments here about Boston and Embiid getting doubled and triple teamed because of the lack of shooting around them. What happens if all those guys are on the floor? What happens in the postseason when Kelly's back, Batum's back, Springer, everyone's playing, they're 100% healthy, and they still throw those looks at Embiid? Are we just relying on the other guys to knock down their shots? And what if they don't? Because what I'm trying to say is,
I see
at a certain point in a 7-game playoff series, it's not okay for me to just say, well, Boston's double and triple teaming him every time he touches the ball. Because I understand how like that's going to make his life and make him work so much more. I get that. But wouldn't every other team just do it then?
You're giving me flashbacks to Game 6 where we went down the stretch and relied on DeAnthony Melton to win us Game 6 against Boston at
Right.
home,
Because
where
what if those
D-Mel
guys
airballs
listen,
three
there's going to
three-pointers
be
in a row.
games, right? There's going to be games where Embiid's kicking out of a double team and everyone's hitting their
Yeah,
threes. The Lakers, when they hit 21, 22 threes.
yeah,
There's going to be games when they're on fire. But I can't trust DeAnthony Melton, and
yeah,
even though we love them, Nico Batum to
yeah.
just make the shots when
Like
they're do they
6
need to?
threes in a
Yeah.
game. You
But
know what
my
I
point
mean?
is at some
Yeah.
point, he has to say, it's my ball, it's my team, and I'm gonna get you there.
That's Brett. That's the worry I think that we're addressing
That's
is
what I'm
like
saying. Like,
if you go to
that's
that
not on
well
him, but then
three
but
times in a
then it will
row,
be on him.
it literally happened in Game 6 against Boston. It's like if you go to that DeAnthony Melton well, wide open in the corner 3 times in a row and he misses it, then what?
Yeah.
Right? If you have PJ Tucker in the corner,
Right.
yeah, PJ Tucker in the corner, he misses 2. Where do you go from there? Now you do have better options now. In Batum, in Rocco is better than PJ Tucker for sure. But it still raises that question when you get into those big moments in the game where Boston says, you know what? Anybody but Maxey and Embiid is going to beat us, and that's fine. DeAnthony Melton, you come out, you beat us. Tobias Harris, you come out, you beat us. We're not letting Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey get any open looks. We're going to double and triple team them each and every time they touch the ball. And who's going to answer from that point? I will say, Kelly Oubre, once again, he seems to fit that.
Maker.
Yeah. It's just his peak, yes. But we haven't seen like his low of low yet. And that's what it doesn't worry me. It's not that I'm seeking to see that. But what does it look like on a Kelly Oubre off night? Even his off nights this year have been good when he's suited up. So I'm interested to see what it looks like when he gets back. It sucks that he's not going to be there tonight for us to kind of see that fit. I want to see him and Batum in the rotation, in the lineup, and see what that looks like because those guys are fairly key to this team, I feel.
I agree with you, man. My whole point was it's an explanation as to why he struggles against Boston when they do throw double and triple teams at him every time he's touching the ball, especially when other guys aren't making shots. It's just my point is like it cannot be an excuse if they lose in the second round in Boston again because it's not like Joel Embiid is the greatest basketball player to ever touch the floor. It's not like he's the most dominant player to ever touch the floor. So don't other teams have superstars that defenses double team and triple? Isn't there a Nikola Jokic? And I know he doesn't, play in the post. So it's, how do you double LeBron James at Kevin? Don't teams throw double, triple teams at other guys and they still find they'll still score 28. Yeah. They'll still score 30. And he has success against Boston at times. My point is we can't just gloss over it because Boston gave him fits.
Yeah.
Figure it out. That's all
I think it's one of those things where you start to see throughout a game against Boston, you'll start to see Joel Embiid hovering at the 3-point line. And sometimes that's fine within the game plan. He can see the court a little bit better. But I think in certain moments throughout the game, he's just got to remind himself, get down to the post, get down into the sweet spot. If they double team you down there, you're probably going to be able to find an open shooter a little bit easier, I would say. And if not, you can go and get an easy bucket at the rim. I think that's got to be the focus against Al Horford, man. Stop taking contested mid-range jump shots. Like, go at Al Horford, get to the free throw line just like you would against any other player that you play against, right?
It's interesting.
We need to get that stigma out of here. Al Horford
Before we move on, what's interesting? I want to see how this game's officiated again tonight.
I feel that.
One thing I noticed in the last game against the Celtics and in the playoffs in the previous years, they let Al, and listen, I know Joel is a 7-foot monster and he's physical, so you have to give defenders some lead. Play. Right. They let Al play in the post, and it's borderline ridiculous at times.
Yeah. Anything that's close goes Al Horford's way. That's what sucks for Embiid and playing for the Sixers and not the Celtics. So
yeah.
Gotta fix it. But yeah, I like that, man. Just add a little a little animosity to
Yeah.
the rivalry. Last time we played the Celtics, we had Embiid after the game saying that they're the best team in the league. We can't operate with that mindset, man. We got to come out like we're the best team in the league. Even a man down, the
Yeah.
best team in the league can win some games. So
Yeah.
got to
They
come
did
on,
it the
man.
first game against Boston.
Yeah.
It's in there. We'll see, though. However, yeah, that was a hell of a night last night.
Oh my
However, for the
God.
final 30 minutes, there's a pretty big game coming up
Wild.
on Sunday.
Yeah.
Pretty
Say the
big
least.
game the following Sunday as well, but all the focus is on this one, Scotty. And obviously, we're going to have pregame live on Sunday, so we're not really going to get into our game picks and everything today, but just a little soft preview and predictions here for this Eagles 49ers NFC Championship rematch preview, similar to the Chiefs, whatever you want to call it. Definitely think we're going to be getting it again this year, hopefully in the link, man. But heading into this one, we're 2 days away. How are you feeling, man? Just from everything, I cannot wait to play this quarterback.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing I'm looking at heading into this matchup. It's something you and I have discussed since the summertime, since when we first started doing Turf Talk this summer and this show and the difference between the Eagles and that team. And he's had a very, very good year. Very good year, Brock Purdy has. But I can't wait to play this quarterback. That's kind of my first kind of excitement point is feed me Brock Purdy in the link this Sunday because it's all we heard after the NFC Championship game. And I just sat back and I could not believe people had the audacity to do it. Now, there's a little bit more evidence, a little bit more background on Brock Purdy now. So it shows me that, he's better than I thought Brock Purdy was. But at that point in time, people were talking about Brock Purdy like, Aaron Rodgers just went down for the San Francisco 49ers in that playoff game. And if Brock Purdy finishes the game, are you kidding me? So now I finally get that taste. I finally get that rematch, fully healthy, no excuses, and let's see what the dude does against this Eagles team on the road.
Yeah, man, I would be lying if I said I wasn't like confident going into this game. The only thing that's in the back of my head, Dylan, as far as like the Eagles and them possibly losing this game is that they're due for a loss.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing that's in my head that it's not a real thing. You know what I mean? Like that's not something that the Eagles are thinking in the locker room.
It's not a matchup. It's not.
It's not like it's not a real thing. At the end of the day, the Eagles should beat the 49ers at home, period. Like I
don't know, man. If you ask David Carr and other national media outlets, the Eagles know the Niners are the best team in the league.
Yeah, when Jalen Hurts walks into the end zone for the game-winning drive, he doesn't even believe that he's him.
That was the most asinine take. I've seen a lot of bad takes from a lot of different people, and there's former Cowboy players on some of these networks, and Cowboys fans that I've seen. That one takes the cake when he said that you can just see it. Even when Jalen scored the game winner and put his arms out, he wasn't confident. He knows that what are you talking about?
Jalen lives and breathes confidence. Like I don't know what the fuck you're watching.
He just ended the game and basically said, "I'm him." Like what? Embraced the fans and said, "I'm him."
He just outclassed Josh Allen. But you're talking about Hurts doesn't believe that he's him. Yeah, and Emmanuel Acho says that he doesn't fit the role of MVP, but he's his number one MVP candidate.
Yeah. Well, Emmanuel Acho also has offensive tackle in the top 5 for his MVP.
Yeah, Trent Williams. Oh my God, man! Like, get the fuck out of here.
There he is.
CMC, like over CMC, you're not gonna put that down. But yeah, I'm looking at this team and I have to ask myself constantly over and over because I think the media and the outside of Philadelphia world, they make you feel crazy, right? They make you feel insane when you look at these teams head to head and you're thinking, well, Philadelphia's offensive line is better. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are better than Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. Kittle, sure, you got the advantage at tight end, but when Goddard is healthy,
Yeah.
That it's not that wide of a gap.
McCaffrey over Swift, sure.
McCaffrey over Swift, but once again, offensive line versus offensive line.
Yeah.
What is Swift behind our offensive line versus CMC? Blah, blah, blah. They still have a great running game. Then you go to the defensive side of the ball. Their defensive line, I would say it's equal. I would equal their defensive line with our defensive line. Their linebackers are better.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to the secondary and you really start to ask yourself, which one of these units are better? I'm going to take the Birds secondary over the 49ers.
Let's just stop. The playmaker.
And then coaching. Is Kyle Shanahan really a better coach than Nick Sirianni when it comes down
Kyle
to
Shanahan can't lace Nick Sirianni's boots, bro. We talked about it at the end of another choke job by that dude. And you want to talk about that man was so arrogant in his play calling that he got his quarterback knocked out of the game, and then he got his backup quarterback knocked out of the game. That's on you want to run the third play of the game by blocking Hassan Reddick, 17.5 sack Hassan Reddick with your tight end, with your backup tight end. That's on coaching.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you have the advantage there. You have multiple advantages across the other parts of the team and the depth chart. But then you take it to the most important position in the sport, and that's the quarterback. Yep. That's the difference. Like, not only are the Eagles at home, right? They're in Philadelphia. That's one advantage when you have teams that are eerily close as far as talent. So they're in Philadelphia, and they have the better quarterback by a mile.
Say that again.
There's no part of my mind that believes that 49ers should be beating the Eagles this weekend.
How far apart are they?
Seeing crazier things. They're miles apart. It's not even close. Brock Purdy is a solid quarterback. He's a game manager. He's a solid quarterback. Jalen Hurts is MVP candidate. He's a ceiling raiser, right? So that's the way I'm looking at this game, man.
It's the difference.
The 49ers defense is great.
The difference.
The Eagles offense is greater.
It's been the difference since last year when they walked into the link in January and people thought they were going to beat this team. And I know we didn't get the fully healthy matchup everyone was expecting, but to Marshawn Lynch's point, man, like that. Did Brock Purdy play defense? They're the best defense in football, the most ferocious defense in football. Oh, got 30 plus hung on your head. Couldn't stop.
Why were we able to run the ball down their throats in that game? Like, why was the rush defense allowing that?
But that's I agree with basically everything you just said. I'll start here. I'm not laying out an early excuse, right? If the Eagles lose this game, it's going to hurt incredibly bad. Okay. Yeah. But my point is to all those people out there that once that clock hits zero, if the Niners are on the winning side of it and all those talking heads come out and talk about San Fran being the best team in the league and Philly can't play with them and blah, 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 blah. What do you expect the Eagles to do is my question. If the Eagles would have lost to Kansas City and Dallas, or they would have lost to Buffalo and Miami over this stretch, and then they lost to San Fran, you're 2-3 over there. That's not, now we're having a completely different conversation. This team, instead of 10-1, they're 8-3. Same with San Fran. Then they're 8-4. It's like, all right, this is not maybe the best team in football. Scotty, they've taken this gauntlet and they've completely and utterly shredded it. So my point is, if they lose to San Fran, I almost feel like saying, duh. Like when you look at the schedule and you beat the Dolphins and the Cowboys and the Chiefs and the Bills, isn't a loss going to come? Is where I'm sitting at. I'm not saying they lose.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, and I'm not trying to make an excuse, but I'm just saying, at what point do you sit here and say, well, yeah, of course they lost the game. Like, they look at who they've beaten. If they win this game, and let's just say they lose to Dallas, who's to say the Eagles aren't going 15-2? Yeah. And if they go 15-2 and win the NFC and go and get the number 1 seed, but you know what people will be talking about, Scotty? This Sunday, if they lose this game, The Eagles could go 15-2, run away with the 1
Yeah.
seed. Everyone has to come to Philly to get to the Super Bowl. But they will be talking about the San Francisco 49ers because they beat the Eagles in week 13. That's what the
Yeah.
conversation will be.
In Philadelphia.
It's
And
crazy.
I mean, the way I do look at it it's crazy that we've gotten to this point and that's what it requires, but I do think they have to win one of the next two. I think that's the bigger picture of things, is that they need to win one of the next two to keep that 1 seed intact. And at the end of the day, while I agree with everything you said, it's just going through my mind as we were talking through it. If they ran through the AFC like that and then kind of fell asleep against the NFC, it would be a little disappointing. They've already beat the
It's going to
Cowboys.
be
They have
disappointing
already
if they
beat the
lose the game.
Cowboys. But if you lose both of these games, it takes all
Absolutely.
the juice out of it for me, if I'm being quite honest. So you need
I
to
hear
win
you.
one of these two.
One of these two. Absolutely. Dude,
Yeah.
if they lose 2 straight, they lose this weekend and then in Dallas, they're in fear of not winning the division.
Yeah, not winning the division, not winning the
That's
conference.
forget 1
And
seed. If you lose
yeah,
which, by the way, not suggesting is going to happen. I don't believe that's going. I'm just throwing it out there that if they were to do so,
yeah,
they're in fear of not even winning the NFC East, which is a
yeah,
crazy thought when we're sitting here at 10-1 right now. It's
yeah.
absolutely nuts to me. But my whole thing, I feel you, man. I just don't know if I would describe it as falling asleep against this team. How much? My point is, how much of it is just wear and fucking tear.
Yeah.
I mean, how many top 5 teams can you play in a row and handle? Up there's a bloop on the radar, and then handle. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's tough. But
And I
like you
do
said, this is the game we circled before the year even started. So out of all of them, this is the one we want to win the most.
and I think on the opposite end of the we're due for a loss, the wear and tear game, right? Where you're worried about your players' health, but there's also the other side of it that says this is the game where the Eagles play a complete game. Finally, there is still that world where we have not played a full 60 minutes of good to great football,
Yeah.
not turn the ball over. I think those are things that they have to look at in this game. And this has to be that game where your offense makes 0 mistakes. Maybe they don't score 30 points, but you make 0 mistakes to bail out that San Fran offense, and you make them earn every single point that they have to put up on the board. If you do that, you're going to beat this team, obviously. But I do think, man, you look at that Chiefs game in Kansas City, right? Against a top 3 defense in the NFL, for my money. I would consider them possibly better than the 49ers as an entire unit. The 49ers pass rush, that front 7 is crazy, but Kansas City as an entire unit and with Steve Spagnuolo's scheme, they are a very good team, especially in Kansas City. They held the Eagles to 21 points. Do I think can teams just do that regularly? I know you just scored 37 against the Bills, but you still turn the ball over twice.
Yeah.
So if you just don't turn the ball over, what does that offense look like when you're running it?
And they only scored 7 points in
It
the
has
first
to
half.
be this game.
So to your point, you only played a 30 with overtime 37-minute game against Buffalo.
Yeah.
Because in the first half you scored 7 points and had 2 turnovers.
Yeah.
We're trailing by 10. So you didn't show up in the first half. You didn't show up in the first half against Kansas City when you put up 7 points and turned the ball over and we're down by 10. You didn't show up you showed up against Dallas, but you were losing 17-14 at halftime versus the Cowboys before you came back and won that football game. So my point is they have not played a full 60-minute game. They have not really played a clean game in terms of turnovers and, maybe forcing a turnover and a lack of penalties and et cetera. Let me call my shot with you real quick. And I know this is kind of hypocritical because we're going to be very frustrated. We would be very frustrated if a 49ers fan or a radio host somewhere was calling his shot saying that they would win it all. If the Eagles play a clean game like you're talking about and they beat San Fran on Sunday, they're not losing the Super Bowl. If the Eagles beat San Fran and play a full 60-minute clean game, we're very close to it, they are winning the Super Bowl. And I say that because they're going to pass every test you put in front of them. And my point is, if they play that clean game, you know how mentally focused this team is at that point. They're winning games. They're skating by, right? They're getting by. No matter how. No, it doesn't matter how they get the job done. If they can turn it up and know the importance of this situation in this game and play their best football this particular week and beat San Francisco, and they've beaten Kansas City and Dallas and Miami and Buffalo and everybody, they're by far the best team in the National Football League. Like by far the best team in the National Football League. Can't convince me otherwise. It's crazy.
I mean, yeah,
it's crazy.
It is. It's tough, man, because week by week, I don't know. I look to every single challenge, and beating Dallas in Dallas is just like another challenge.
It won't. I'll tell you this.
Dallas in Dallas. Now you're in a neutral Super Bowl site for the Super Bowl. Yeah, then I'll there's nothing that could be in your way from that standpoint. But I agree
with you, but you also just beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
That it takes. Yeah.
If you beat San Fran, I'm not saying I don't care. Next week I will care immensely about the game.
Yeah.
But for the time, I will not care about playing Dallas in Dallas. You already beat them, and I won't, man. And the reason I'm kind of calling that shot is because I know it sounds crazy to say if a team loses a Super Bowl or doesn't win a Super Bowl, their season is a failure. That's crazy to say for any team. We know how difficult it is. If the Eagles beat the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday and then don't win a Super Bowl this year, the season will be a failure for my money. I don't care. If you beat every single team thrown your way this year, injured, banged up, no Lane, no Goddard, you're missing Maddox for the season, Jalen's got a butt, you beat every test thrown your way, and then you don't win it all, I'm going to be very, very disappointed in this team.
Yeah.
Even
without the win this Sunday, man, it's Super Bowl or bust for this team.
I agree. I agree. But my point is, if they lost to San Fran and then, let's say lost to Dallas or Seattle or whatever, they lose 2 of the next 3 or 4 games, but they still finish 13-4, 14-3, something like that, and they win the 1 seed and they get to the Super Bowl and they win and they lose the Super Bowl, but they lost to San Fran and Dallas back to back here. It's all right, I've seen the hiccups, a couple hiccups throughout the year. If they beat this team this Sunday, if they're all they've done already, then it would be a failure, a legit failure, if that makes sense. There's going to be disappointment regardless if they lost the Super Bowl. But my point is, one is all right, you got to the Super Bowl. Another is, you can't lose the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
For my money.
I came into this season, man, this Super Bowl or bust for me. When you have Jason Kelce on his last stand, it's Super Bowl or bust here. And
first of all,
I think a win this weekend will just further that. It'll further that expectation for sure. Once you beat the one team that is kind of out there, that everybody thinks, they haven't played, they can't beat them. Yeah, once you knock down that barrier, it raises that expectation even higher. It's a big game, man. Obviously, I can't wait to see us line up across from him. Obviously, hoping Lane Johnson's a go. That's going to be important. He's been
Goddard's pushing the play. I feel like Goddard's going to be held. I feel like they're not going to let Goddard play.
I feel like he wants to play, but they're not going to let him. And I think if that's what the doctor says is smart, you don't want to end his season here when you could just get him back for Dallas or even the week
but it would be so huge if he comes back on Sunday.
If he's good to go, it would be humongous, man. How do you feel about Zach Ertz? The Zach Ertz news, and then we'll see if Shaq Leonard signs. I saw there was a lot of discussion, Shaq Leonard or Zach Ertz. I don't understand why that's either or.
I don't know the money. All I know is you have the best GM in football, who is a cap wizard, who, if
Yeah.
he wants to make it work, can make this thing work by bringing in both. If you want to talk about more important, Shaq Leonard's the more important piece because you're obviously lacking at a big hole at linebacker, more so than when Goddard comes back, you are at tight end too, right?
Yeah.
However, I would welcome Zach Ertz back with open arms. My only question that I'm thinking back on, and again, I think they were just rumors, so we may not know the whole truth, the whole story. Didn't Zach and Howie's relationship end miserably? Wasn't before Zach was moved, wasn't there, like when Carson was on his way out and him and wasn't there like on a bus or in the locker, like Zach and Howie legitimately got in a fight on the bus and someone stormed off or whatever?
I think it was something like that
So
where,
my question is, what's
yeah,
that
it
relationship
was
like?
something like that.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. I feel like when you win a Super Bowl, but it doesn't cure everything. I don't know. When you have a
This was
chance at a
post Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl,
This was post Super
yeah,
Bowl.
I know. Yeah, I'm just saying, like when you have a Super Bowl win in your history, you get a
Right.
few years to kind of
Right.
digress on whatever
Right.
happened in that situation where you exited.
By the way, you're two grown men. You can figure it out, right?
And
And
there is still staples on the team that, it goes
right,
beyond
and
Howie
him and
sometimes.
his
You have
wife
Jason
love the
Kelce,
city,
Lane Johnson.
and part of the report of why he's waived, the reason they allowed him to be waived is because he wants to play for a contender. Well, what
Yeah,
better contender to come play for? But
yeah. I
just
think
me.
it'll either be the Ravens or the Eagles. I think that's what it'll
Ah,
come down to and see,
the Ravens is a good one. I didn't think about. Obviously, no Mark Andrews. They could definitely use a Zach Ertz over the middle of the field for them.
like,
So that's
why
good.
would he pick them over the Eagles per
Right.
se?
Right.
Saw people talk about San Fran as a possible destination. He's obviously
Okay.
from that area. That would be I would hate it, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference for
No.
San Fran, really. So I don't
No.
know. They got
Yeah.
George
No,
Kittle.
I
It
agree
doesn't
with
get
you, man.
better than that.
I agree with you. Let me ask you a question. If you had to give me one guy on San Francisco's offense that
Mhm.
you need the Eagles to eliminate or slow down, who is it?
Immediately, my mind goes to CMC. He's their best player, obviously, but
Sure.
I think he's a guy that you can't shut him down. So you kind of just live with CMC. Obviously, you don't let him go running wild
Right.
in the
Right.
backfield like
But
150 rushing yards, but you kind of accept him for what it is. You're still going to lock in on him defensively, but you accept his production for what it is because he's that good. I think the focus, man, what would be detrimental to our defense would be Brandon Ayuk in the big plays. I think that type of like spark, if he's catches like a 35-yard touchdown or something from Brock Purdy, and it's like, we got Brock back, right? There's our quarterback. We're out here.
yeah.
Him or even George Kittle, right? Through the
Yeah.
middle of the field. That's a guy that worries me. Debo Samuel is obviously in the conversation, but it's more the big play that's worrying me
Yeah.
rather than his like little rushes and his little end arounds, stuff like that. It's the big plays downfield
By
that
the
worry
way,
me for momentum.
I'm letting James Bradbury follow his ass around
Let's see.
24/7. If I'm
See how
Sean
trash
Desai,
James
here's what I'm
Bradbury
doing.
is.
This is not any other offense, okay? And I know we've played the Cowboys and we've played the Chiefs and all the Miami. We played explosive offenses, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, right? We've played all these guys. This is a different unit because of how many skill position guys they have that can
Yeah.
kill you at every position. My thing here is this cannot just be your every week game plan. I think you need to specifically game plan for the San Francisco, like they specifically game plan for each and every team. But my point is there's a scheme and then you implement that scheme directed towards that offense. I'm saying fuck that. I'm saying you let your playmakers be playmakers. Darius Slay, you're with Brandon Ayuk. James Bradbury, you're with Debo Samuel. Kevin Byard, you're with George Kittle. That's what I'm doing. If CMC goes in the slot, Kevin Byard gets on CMC for that. I'm letting my playmakers make plays. I'm playing more men. I'm not letting Brock Purdy have the luxury of reading a zone and finding the holes in a soft zone and moving the ball up and down the field. Because I promise you that bend but don't break bullshit that you've held up pretty well with, that team is going to score in the red zone on you. That team, CMC, Kittle, they are going to score touchdowns on you if you allow them to get inside your 20. Fuck that. I'm making Brock Purdy make all the tight coverage throws. I'm making him go one-on-one against Darius Slay. I'm letting my playmakers be playmakers. I'm allowing it's what I'm doing, man. I'm not sitting back there. It's not, guys. Like, it's not man-to-man every single play. I'm not suggesting that. But I'm running man more than I am zone in this game.
So when you look at the Eagles and their linebacker situation, how are you going about that? Because that's one worry I would say is like Christian Ellis. If you have him out there and somehow he gets matched up on CMC or George Kittle, like either one, right?
Yeah. Want to know how? I'm playing 3 safeties a decent amount of time. Kevin Byard, Reed Blankenship, and Sidney Brown will be on the field together.
Yeah.
For me. That's what I'm doing. If CMC gets in the slot, Kevin Byard,
I think that's
Bradley
what you bring
Roby,
a guy like Kevin Byard in for,
him.
man.
Yeah.
A hybrid safety. He can come
allow
down
him to come down in the box and spy on Christian McCaffrey if it's a swing, whatever the case may be.
The big thing that is, and we'll talk about this more on Sunday, obviously, Eagles pregame, get into like the logistics of the game, but looking at this game compared to like the last 2 to 3 that we've played, you played against Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, and you played against Josh Allen. Now, we know Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. We know what caliber quarterback they are. But more importantly, in the pocket, the way they can maneuver, get out of sacks. We saw last night what Dak can do. I mean, he had a guy draped on him, and he just pushes him off. That was a great play, by the way. Like, to give Dak a little bit of credit, that was a great play.
Yeah.
But it shows his ability as well to get out of pressure, to make plays with his legs. Brock Purdy is not that guy. And so that, to me, is something that is just not being talked about at all. Our defensive line wasn't able to get to those guys frequently because of their ability to get out of the pocket and make plays with their legs. Brock Purdy is not that guy. Example, Exhibit A, NFC Championship game, he gets laid out at the beginning of the game by Hassan Reddick, blindsided, right? That's the type of stuff that our defensive line should be doing to this guy all night, coming at him from all angles. The pressure was getting there against Josh Allen and against Patrick Mahomes.
It just wasn't finishing.
They just couldn't get him down.
Yeah,
you got to get him to the ground, and I think that's something that's kind of being slept on in this game is just the difference in quarterback play, man. Sanford has all the weapons in the world.
There's 2 major differences for me in this matchup that are going to play a factor. A, the quarterback matchup. One dude's the front runner to win MVP. He's the most clutch quarterback in the league. It doesn't matter if you're down 10, 15 at halftime. He'll find a way to get the job done. The other is Brock Purdy. And yes, I say that with some disrespect. Then the other matchup is coaching. I cannot stand Kyle Shanahan. I cannot stand Kyle Shanahan. Is he an awesome offensive mind? For sure. For sure, he's a great offensive mind. I can't stand him. I don't think he's got it in big games. I think his ego gets the best of him. I think it's his way and it's going to work and you can't stop me. Versus a guy in Nick Sirianni who has this team as maybe the most mentally tough team I've ever seen wear Eagles green. And I mean that, dude. Like, this team is never out of it. They're never down. They're always with each other. They play for each other, and they find a way to get the job done. I'm telling you, Nick Sirianni is going to outcoach Kyle Shanahan. And it might not seem like it in the first half. It might seem like Kyle Shanahan has Sean Desai's number, and they're moving the ball up and down the field. I'm telling you, in the second half, in the fourth quarter, one coach is going to look like an asshole, and one's going to be celebrating with his team in the locker room. And that's Nick Sirianni.
I think that's a great point, man. Even when it comes down to the X's and O's, maybe the Eagles don't have the best game plan or scheme, but when it comes to preparation and discipline, we see these guys come out every single weekend prepared to win. And I do think, I saw Pastor Ram's comment down there. If it's an air raid type of game, the 49ers are not winning that fucking
No,
game. So
no.
sure, if it turns into like this air it out affair between Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy, I will take the Eagles 12 out of 10
Well,
times
let
in a
me ask
matchup
you,
that goes that route.
how are you hoping that Brian Johnson attacks this 49ers team from the jump?
I
Obviously, I
think you have to,
know we want them to establish the run because it's
yeah,
something they haven't done all year. But when
yeah,
you flash back to the NFC Championship, what did the Eagles do? Gashed them in the run game, right? Ran for over
yeah,
200 yards, right? Like, so
yeah.
are you looking for the same blueprint? Like,
Yeah.
well, how do
I
you hope he
I think
attacks it?
they need to establish the offense through the run, and then you work through the run with play
I agree.
action and misdirection.
I agree, man.
That's how you set up elite defenses, right?
Man, let
So I think you
Jalen be
gotta
more.
take the decision making at first, like just in the first
Mhm.
drive, take the decision making away from Hurts. Let him
Yeah,
get settled in, get through that first drive, run the
yeah,
ball first, and then easy throws, easy quick
yep.
throws to
I
get a,
agree.
a little bit of a rhythm going.
Right.
Just
Get
hope it's
AJ
not
Brown
raining, man.
established with a slant on 1st and 10, right? You know what I mean? Like
Hope it's
something
not
like that.
raining. I
Well,
want a clear
I know.
playing
I
field,
think it's
man. I'm
going
tired of
to.
playing on these
I
rainy
know.
fields.
I think it's
I don't
going
know
to.
if it like benefits the Eagles. It could because they are such a physical team.
Yeah,
Maybe the bad weather benefits them, but I'd rather just play on a nice, clean, sunny day
yeah,
and see what the Eagles really look like without the wetness and the
yeah.
ball and worrying about handling the ball, all that stuff.
You know what I would
I
love to see,
want to
bro?
see a complete game, man.
I know it's what makes Jalen so dynamic, the fact that he's able to use his legs and everything like
Yeah,
that, and clearly it's working when you're 10-1 and, like, 26-2 in your last 28 or with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, whatever the case is. But I would like to see, I'm not saying to take it out of the playbook, obviously, but I would like to see less options. I would like to see less RPOs. And I know that's kind of been a staple ever since, Nick Foles took over for Carson Wentz and they made it very simple for him with the read pass option or the run pass option, excuse me. But it's like allow Jalen to be the quarterback.
yeah,
Allow Jalen to be the pocket passer that he's shown he can be at times this year.
yeah,
Allow him to do it, man. Like draw up motion pre-snap and like for instance, you talked about creating in the passing game off of the run. DeAndre Swift in the second half against Buffalo had a big run in the fourth quarter, and the very next play or two plays later to pick up a first down, they ran the same motion, faked the handoff, and then slit the tight end out to the right. It's easy pitch and catch, picked up like
yeah,
12 yards, easy first down. Allow that type of shit in the offense.
yeah,
Like there's too much just
yeah,
too many read options between Jalen. No, man, let's make this shit
yeah,
simple. All right. If we're running the ball, there's no option for Jalen to run it 14 times. I'm not saying yeah, allow that to happen at
if
times.
it's
But
there,
hey,
yeah, sure.
hey, line up, throw a tight end on the left side. Here you go, DeAndre. Simple, no option. I'm
Yeah.
not reading the backer. It's to DeAndre Swift, and he goes.
I think they've had a few learning lessons along the way here as to how they can address and approach against a good defense like San Fran's. Like I said, Kansas City's defense, elite. Dallas's defense, whether we like it or not, is elite. They get pressure on the quarterback. They have guys that can make plays. When you look at who's the other defense, the Jets defense, obviously, which we struggled against, you come out of those games with learning lessons, how a pass rush is going to approach you, what Jalen's going to have to do decision making wise. So just take those learning lessons on the cheek and address them in this game. And I think that's once again how we get that complete game this weekend against the San Francisco 49ers. And that's ultimately how you win the game.
Yep.
Let me ask you this before we get out of here, man.
Yeah.
I know we got to get going. Which game is more winnable to you? San Fran in Philadelphia or Dallas in Dallas? Which one of those games would you favor the Eagles winning over the
That's
other?
tough. That's tough.
Not
Clearly,
which
I
one
think
you want them to win,
right,
but which one
right,
is
right,
more winnable?
right. Clearly, I think San Francisco is the better team.
Yeah.
Dallas is on what, a 13, 14 game home game winning streak. obviously saw what they did to Seattle's defense last night, and he just has success against our defense, man. Listen,
Yeah.
whether that equates to touchdowns, which it didn't in the last matchup, they have to finish, they have to execute and play winning football. And, the Cowboys are going to cowboy, right? But they are going to move the ball on the Eagles, especially at home. It's just both are winnable. I agree with Marshawn Lynch. But I'm going to stick with San Fran, even though I think they're the better team of the two. San Fran at home, that quarterback, I'll take on more so than I will Dak in Dallas right now with the way that team's playing. Now, granted, you allowed Geno Smith to give you 35 last night.
Yeah.
Right? So San Fran, who we're talking about, comparing Dallas to San Fran. San Fran held that same Seattle offense to 13 points.
No touchdowns. Yeah, fair enough.
Right, not even 13 points because it was a pick six to your point.
Yeah.
So 6 points.
They did not score a touchdown. Right. So
now that Cowboys defense just allowed 35. So it's give and take with
at
both.
Home.
But I'll take playing at home versus San Fran over going to Dallas in terms of what's more winnable for the Eagles right now.
Yeah.
And you already beat Dallas once. Like, are we that, or are we, if you beat Dallas next week, you're going 6-0 in the division.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
No, Pastor Rams. I wanted to pull this no. It won't come to this because it's just not how things work, but no. No. No.
He ain't having a party.
No.
He ain't having.
You're right.
I will say, I do think the Eagles defense respects them. Yeah.
But no.
I don't
never happen. It
will
never happen.
I'll say that kindly.
Will never happen in the Lincoln Financial Field. It will never happen. If
they
come out with that mindset that they're going to let Brock Purdy air it out against the Eagles,
there's no way they do. I'll tell you what I think you get. I think you get a heavy dose of CMC in the run game, and then I think you get quick hitters off of that.
Play action.
I think you get slants to Ayuk, stuff over the middle to Kittle. I think you get
very
Debo out of the backfield. I think that's what you get. And I think they'll take a shot
for Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I think they'll take a shot here and there to Ayuk or to one of their speed, more deep threats, but I think you're going to get a heavy dose of the run game, and then you're going to get quick hitters off of that to their playmakers. But, kind of very similar to what the Eagles should be doing, right? Like now the Eagles can take more deep shots than San Fran can. But if we're being honest, the Eagles should be running the ball and then finding ways to get A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith the ball in space.
You know what I would love to see in this game? And I know we're going on and on here. We got a whole Sunday show to do, but I would love to see an A.J. Brown takeover game. I would love to see it in a big spot, against the 49ers or against the Cowboys. Kind of like how we saw CeeDee Lamb. Like A.J. Brown said, oh, that boy gets the ball last night on Twitter, right? Talking about CeeDee Lamb. Well, let's have one of those games from A.J. Brown where you get open and we can get you the ball.
Right.
And dominate this game through the air.
I'm glad you said that. The last thing I'll say that I'll talk about more on Sunday, man.
Yeah.
I mentioned how if I'm Sean Desai, I'm allowing your playmakers to go be playmakers. I'm playing more man. I'm allowing Darius Slay. I'm allowing James Bradbury, Kevin Byard to make plays in man coverage, make Brock Purdy, make those throws in man versus a zone, not a zone. Same thing with offense. I brought this up to you last week. This week, to me, this matchup against that defense, it's more so about players than it is plays. Forget just forget trying to call a game just because of what's on your play call sheet.
Yeah.
Players over plays. What's that mean?
Yeah.
Finding ways to get A.J. Brown the ball. Yeah. Giving the ball to DeAndre Swift. Finding ways to get Devontae Smith open. Strictly to them, if that makes sense. You dial things up to get the balls in their hands more so than just calling a play, allowing Jalen to make the right read and making a throw to whoever. No. Players over plays this Sunday on both sides of the ball. And let's see which team can win the line of scrimmage and get after it, man. With that said, guys, that is going to wrap up this Friday edition of the Phaithful Fanatics Show. If you guys are new to the channel, if you like the content, if you want to be interactive in the comment section, make sure to smash that subscribe button. It's the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we will be live right here on the DSM Philadelphia YouTube channel Sunday afternoon, getting you ready and giving our game picks for this Eagles-Niners rematch. For myself, for Scotty, have a great rest of your weekend.